Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next 30 minutes, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is en route to the US, Quad and Summit of the Future, bilateral meeting with President Biden, and much more on the agenda over 3 days. Millions of Sri Lankans are voting today under tight security in a presidential election crucial for the island nation's economic recovery after the 2022 crisis. 45% turnout till 1 p.m. The Hezbollah confirms the killing of a senior commander in an Israeli strike in Lebanon. UN Human Rights Chief seeks a probe into the pager and walkie-talkie blasts which triggered the current escalated phase of the conflict. And Bangladesh stares at a mammoth target as India declare with a 514-run lead on day 3 of the Chennai Test. Gill and Pant score centuries. First up, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarked on a 3-day visit to the United States of America. A meeting with his host, President Joe Biden, is the first item on the PM's agenda on Saturday. Both leaders are slated to discuss issues of mutual importance as well as those related to global and regional developments. Prime Minister Modi will also attend the annual Quad Summit at Wilmington in Delaware, which will provide him an opportunity to interact with his Australian and Japanese counterparts, along with President Biden on pressing global issues, the Indo-Pacific, and the conflicts in Ukraine as well as the Middle East. Prime Minister Modi will address the Summit of the Future at the UN General Assembly in New York on Monday. Now, in his departure statement, Prime Minister Modi said the Quad Summit has emerged as a key group of the like-minded countries to work with peace, progress and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. Meeting with President Biden will allow to review and identify new pathways to further deepen India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership. The PM also said he was eagerly looking forward to engaging with the Indian diaspora and important American business leaders who are key stakeholders and provide vibrancy to the unique partnership between the largest and the oldest democracies of the world. The Prime Minister added that the Summit of the Future is an opportunity for the global community to chart the road ahead for the betterment of humanity. Now, the Quad Summit is being hosted by US President Joe Biden in his hometown of Wilmington on Saturday. DD India's Amritpal Singh is in Wilmington, the US state of Delaware. This is the first stop of Prime Minister Modi during his current visit, to which he is en route. Let's get a glimpse of the host's venue, excitement of residents, and what is in store for PM Modi on day 1 from ground zero.
When Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives here in the United States on a 3-day visit, his first stop would be Wilmington in Delaware State. He will hold a bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden, followed by bilateral meetings with his Japanese and Australian counterparts Fumio Kishida and Anthony Albanese. Prime Minister later will participate in the Quad Leaders Summit here. Delaware, in fact, is the home state of President Biden. It's a state where President grew up. In fact, President Biden has chosen this school called Archmere Academy, which is a private school on the suburbs of Wilmington, where President Biden studied.
This is really awesome because this is where President Biden studied, and now such a big thing is happening here. So I'm really excited for what's going to happen.
It's a big honor. It's like really a big deal to be at the same school that the President of the United States of America went to.
It gives me a lot of pride and honor that my school is chosen.
The 4th in-person Quad Summit will review the progress achieved by the grouping over the past 1 year and set the agenda for the year ahead to assist the countries in the Indo-Pacific to meet their developmental goals and aspirations. They will also be looking at areas of cooperation in areas like maritime security, high quality infrastructure, critical and emerging technologies, cyber security, health security, natural disaster response, and climate and clean energy. The leaders will also be addressing a small event called the Cancer Moonshot event here, where they'll be speaking about what their respective governments have done in their turns to deal with the scourge of cancer. In fact, President Biden is hosting this meeting here in his school to give it a personal touch, as this will be his last meeting. In fact, both for him and for Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, as they are hanging their spurs later this year. With cameraman Kuldeep Sharma, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Wilmington, Delaware.
And a mega Indian diaspora event is also being organized in New York to welcome Prime Minister Modi during his visit to the US. Some 15,000 Indian Americans from across different states are reaching Nassau County to participate in this program. The theme of the event is Modi and the US Progress Together. DD India's Shubhedu Ghosh has more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting United States. Besides the strategic and diplomatic engagements at the Quad Summit and at United Nations, there is great anticipation around Prime Minister's connection with the Indian diaspora. In fact, I'm standing right now in front of this mega stadium, which is the Nassau Coliseum. This is going to be the venue for this very special diaspora program that Prime Minister would be engaging in. I have with me two members from the organizing committee of this mega program, Jagdish and Suhag. Jagdish, from you, I'd like to learn, what are the arrangements made? How are you planning to make this event a memorable one?
Well, it's going to be a memorable event. Just imagine the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to address New York after 10 years. After Madison Square Garden, this is the first time. We have been after Narendra Modi ji to come and address us, but because of his busy schedule, he couldn't do. Thank God, finally he has agreed. And just imagine, day after tomorrow, 15,000 strong New Yorkers plus people coming from 40 states of America. 500 organizations, 500 cultural program artists coming together for this mega event at this mega stadium to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Nassau County. And this is the first time ever any Prime Minister has come to Nassau County. So I was talking to the Nassau County executive, that is Mayor of Nassau County. He said, Jagdish, I'm so excited. 2 months back, I hosted a cricket team, and now I'm hosting your Prime Minister, who is not only a popular leader of Bharat, but he's a global leader.
Right. Suhag, from you, I'd like to learn about the name of this mega program. I understand it is called Modi and US, but one can also read it as Modi and Us. Interesting play of words. How do you see it?
I think it's really up to whoever is saying it. You can say India and US and India and us, but it really means the same thing. It's about our connection with India. And it's about the Indian American diaspora being ambassadors of a cultural ethos of unity and diversity. And it's such a nice blending of cultures, because to be Indian is to be pluralistic, to be American is to be pluralistic. And that's why the US-India friendship is a natural one. And that's why Indian Americans are also a natural fit to their adopted country, the United States.
Right. I understand that almost a mini India is going to be created here in terms of the cultural performances, special presentations that are going to be here when the Prime Minister arrives at the stadium. Jagdish, take us through the special programs that you've lined up for Prime Minister when he's here.
Well, like I told you, 500 artists are going to perform here, and you will see a mini Bharat here. In Nassau County, in America, you will see a mini Bharat from, participating, performing Indian arts to Bollywood, patriotic song, you can say on and on. I think Suhag can take a little more about the cultural program, what we have lined up.
Absolutely. Well, what's really wonderful about this program is that not only did it garner a tremendous response, so many internationally and nationally known artists who came forward to volunteer for the program. We have classical, folk, funky, you name it. We have every genre possible. We have north, south, east, west, and everything in between in terms of India. All of those cultures represented. So the theme of unity and diversity, it is through and through. We see it from the people that are coming, the audience, the participants, to the programming, to the volunteers. We are unity and diversity.
All right. On that note, finally, the kind of role that Indian America diaspora is playing in bringing the two great democracies and societies closer. How do you reflect on that thought through this event as well?
Well, I'll tell you, America being the oldest democracy and India being the largest democracy, we are natural partners. And I believe Indian American diaspora plays very important role in this. I call it people-to-people relation. The role Indian American have played for bilateral relation is amazing. Today you see we have congressman, governor of the state, and today if you see even Kamala Harris, who is half Indian, is contesting as the president of the United States. That shows how important Indian diaspora is in USA. We are very politically savvy, and hopefully in next few years you'll see Indian American as the president of United States.
All right, on that hopeful note, thank you very much for speaking with DD India. So the stage is all set for the mega diaspora event when Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches United States here in New York at Long Island. Nassau Coliseum is all ready to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Indian diaspora. With camera person Sumit Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
Apart from events like these, the Summit of the Future will also be held from the 22nd to the 23rd of September in the UN General Assembly in New York, and Prime Minister Modi will be addressing the summit on the 23rd. The event aims to discuss multilateral solutions for global challenges and will produce an agreed document on the Pact for the Future. DD India's Amritpal Singh reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
United Nations, the apex global body which has often been criticized for failing humanity to address its current problems. The UN is now staging a summit of the future, which has an ambitious agenda to find solutions to the emerging problems, the solutions to problems which may affect humanity in the near future, to evolve a global consensus, a pact for future which solves humanity's problems. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing world leaders on Monday at the Summit of the Future, making a strong case for keeping international commitments on sustainable development, financing for the developing countries, and transforming the global governance architecture to make it more effective and equitable. But the big question is, will world leaders be able to keep their differences aside and find solutions to the problems of the world? But despite the cynicism, it is a welcome step by the UN because, as the Mahatma once said, the future depends on what you do today. With cameraman Sumit Naudyal, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India at the UN headquarters in New York.
Let's now get you a look at some other stories making news today. In a tragic incident late Friday evening, a bus transporting Border Security Force personnel for election duty in North India's Budgam district in Jammu and Kashmir fell into a gorge, resulting in the death of 4 troopers, injuring at least 36 others as well. A wreath-laying ceremony was held on Saturday for the BSF personnel who lost their lives in this mishap. In South India's Tamil Nadu, the Indian Coast Guard organized a beach clean drive on the occasion of International Coastal Cleanup Day 2024. The Chennai Corporation, non-government organizations, students and general public also joined the cleanup drive. The value of digital payments in India has surged to 1,669 lakh crore rupees in the first 5 months from April to August of the current financial year 2024-25. India's Finance Ministry has said that the value of UPI or Unified Payments Interface transactions has grown from 1 lakh crores to 200 lakh crores. Additionally, the total transaction value has surged to an impressive 101 lakh crore rupees. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Americans begin casting their first in-person votes in a handful of US states with the presidential contest still over 6 weeks off. And Indonesia releases the New Zealand pilot taken captive 19 months ago in Indonesia's Papua by a rebel group.
We are looking at new and emerging dimensions in India's most important strategic partnership with the United States.
From Washington's standpoint, India, I would say, is a rising part of our economic portfolio looking globally. It's now one of our 10 largest trading partners. And again, if any company has got offshore R&D and IT, it's probably coming first to places like Bangalore and Hyderabad. What we've seen just in the last couple of years is a shift away from transfer of technology, of selling things to India, and of exercises, which are all great and they're fundamental, but we are now moving actively into interoperability.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Americans began casting their first in-person votes on Friday in the presidential election, less than 7 weeks away. These Democratic supporters in the Midwestern state of Minnesota were out early to make sure their voice was counted in a tight presidential race. Voters in Minnesota, South Dakota and Virginia can now go to the polls in person, while those in Minnesota and South Dakota can also mail in their ballots. Minnesota is the home state of Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. And U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris warned of the consequences of another Donald Trump presidency at a rally in Wisconsin on Friday. Calling Donald Trump an unserious man, Harris said that he had no plans on issues that matter to American citizens.
Now, Donald Trump, well, he has a different plan. And in many ways, you've heard me say before, he is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting him back in the White House are extremely serious. Extremely serious. Just Google Project 2025. By the way, can you believe they put that thing in writing? I mean, they put it in writing, they had it bound, and they handed it out. And if you get your hands on it or just Google it, let me tell you, it's a detailed and dangerous blueprint for what he will do if he were elected president again.
Kamala Harris also said she has been trying to get a second opportunity to debate her Republican challenger Donald Trump in this year's presidential race. She also spoke about abortion rights and said 1 in 3 women in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban.
1 in 3 women in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. Think about that. When you compound that with what has been long-standing neglect of women in communities with a lack of the adequate resources they need for health care, prenatal, during their pregnancy, postpartum. Think about that. And these hypocrites want to start talking about this is in the best interest of women and children.
Now, voting is underway in Sri Lanka's presidential elections. 38 candidates are running for the top post. Over 17 million voters are eligible to vote to elect the 9th executive president. The island nation is holding its first election after the 2022 economic downturn. 45% turnout has been recorded till 1 p.m. local time in Colombo. Special security measures have been implemented with over 60,000 police personnel, special task force and the military deployed throughout the island nation.
Things are going on very smoothly all over the island now. The people are engaging in casting their votes peacefully, and we are getting informations and the reports from the districts continuously from 22 electoral district, and all 13,421 polling booths are actively now working, And also we are seeing through the medias and we are getting reports from our officials that the people very interestingly going to the polling station and they are patiently waiting in the polling station and casting their votes. We are also encouraging all the voters to go to the polling station without delay and cast your vote.
And now we're joined live from Colombo by DD India's Dr. Ahmed Moin Faruqi. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Faruqi. Now, how is the polling going at this moment? Is the turnout so far indicative of how high the stakes in this contest really are?
Good afternoon, Gautam. You see, in Sri Lanka, the turnouts have usually been pretty high. They have been ranging from 75 to 85% in various elections. And right now, at one of the polling stations, we can see a steady trickle of voters who are coming into the polling station to cast their vote. As per the numbers that we have received so far, there has been a polling of about 45% in Colombo up to 1 p.m. And there have been reports of over 50% voting that has happened in at least 3 electoral districts. That being said, it is too early to predict how much exactly the voter turnout would be, because as of now, it's around 2:20, and the voting will be allowed till about 4:30 p.m. With a clause that whosoever will be in the queues at 4 p.m. will be permitted to vote. Given that it's expected that the voter turnout is supposed to be around 75 to 80% this time also. But considering the important issues that have been there in the election, this is a very, very important, a very, very pivotal election for Sri Lanka, and people are coming out in decent numbers and voting. And we never know with the total voter turnout what it exactly could turn out to be at the end of the day. Only the statistics, when the Election Commission releases it, we'll get to know. Gautam.
Okay. Now, how soon will the results emerge, as the counting will begin as soon as the polls close?
Gautam, today around 4:15 to 4:30 p.m. is the time when the postal ballots will be counted first. And meanwhile, the ballot boxes from the polling centers, they will be shifted to the counting centers, and the counting will commence of the ballot boxes. It will commence later on in the evening. We are being told that the Election Commission has made elaborate arrangements to ensure that the result will be out latest by tomorrow, even if it goes into the second round of counting, in the eventuality that there's no candidate getting about 50% of the vote in the first round of counting. But we are hoping, given the the usual the trend of how much time it takes in the previous elections, we are expecting tomorrow itself the results to be out.
Right, right. Dr. Faruqi, thank you so much for joining us from Colombo with that update. Now, a top Hezbollah commander, Ibrahim Akil, has been killed in an Israeli strike in Beirut on Friday. At least 10 commanders, including senior operatives in Hezbollah's operations staff and commanders, were also eliminated, along with Akil, in the strike on Beirut's southern suburbs. Hezbollah has confirmed the commander's death, calling him one of its top leaders. The airstrike left buildings damaged, streets covered with debris, and fallen power lines in the region.
The IDF conducted a targeted strike in Beirut on senior terrorist Ibrahim Akil, the head of Hezbollah's operations and the commander of Hezbollah's elite Radwan forces. I can now confirm that Ibrahim Akil was eliminated together with other senior terrorists in Hezbollah's Radwan forces. Ibrahim Akil had the blood of many innocent people on his hands.
The United Nations Security Council met on Friday over the pager blasts in Lebanon targeting the Hezbollah. The United Nations denounced the detonation of handheld communication devices used by Hezbollah operatives in Lebanon this week, saying that the attack violated international law and could constitute a war crime. The UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has asked for an investigation into the circumstances of these explosions and said that international humanitarian law prohibits the use of booby-trap devices in the form of apparently harmless portable objects.
International humanitarian law prohibits the use of booby-trap devices in the form of apparently harmless portable objects which are specifically designed and constructed to contain explosive material. It is a war crime to commit violence intended to spread terror among civilians. I call again for an independent, thorough, and transparent investigation into the circumstances of these explosions. Those who ordered and carried out these attacks must be held to account.
Indonesia released New Zealand pilot Philip Mertens on Saturday after spending more than 19 months in captivity in Indonesia's Papua. Mertens was held captive by rebels from the West Papua National Liberation Army after he landed a small commercial plane in the remote mountainous area of Duga in February last year. Sports now, and Shubman Gill and Rishabh Pant's tons extended India's lead past 500 runs, giving Bangladesh a huge mountain to climb on day 3 to win the test in Chennai. India declared a 287 for 4 on day 3, posting 515 as a target for Bangladesh. By lunch on day 3, both Rishabh Pant and Shubman Gill had picked up pace and entered into the 80s. However, just after lunch, Rishabh Pant departed after scoring a fabulous 109. He was dismissed by Mahdi Hassan Miraz. Shubman Gill also slammed his century in dominating fashion and was joined by a fiery KL Rahul at the crease as 4 down India eased past the 500-run lead mark. And that's it for now in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.